Sorry, we're live now. Everyone's going to have to live with your fan. Well, good evening. Shalom, everyone from Tel Aviv. Well, I'm in Tel Aviv. Shana is not. Shana is in Los Angeles, USA. Welcome to a Paratrooper and a Yogi walk into a bar where Shana and I have our weekly chat about all things Middle East. My co-host, Shana Meyerson, she barely needs introduction at this point. Barely needs it. I just assume that you all know who she is. But she is the host of the Yogi and War podcast, which you can find on every platform that has a podcast of any kind. And we've been doing this for a good few weeks, and it's once again a pleasure to see you, Shana.
My goodness, Andrew, it's been 6 months, if you can believe it. So anyway, yes, of course, my name precedes me in fame, and certainly from Andrew Fox, I need no introduction. However, allow me to please introduce my co-host, the truth teller, coming to us straight from Tel Aviv, Andrew Fox. He's the co-host of the Brink Podcast, Jake Simon, who, by the way, will be on the Yoga of War this Friday. I'm really looking forward to it. And that is Mr. Andrew Fox here on Substack and X. And in Mr. Andrew Fox, let me just add that while you're where I wish I was in Tel Aviv, here I am in Los Angeles, where your Indianapolis Colts wiped the floor with our Chargers yesterday.
Yeah, 6-1. 6-1. Who saw that coming? Absolutely over the moon. I landed in Tel Aviv. I think it was about 2:30 a.m. local, so middle of the night, and then the game was still going.
Oh,
and it was a lot. So I was watching on Apple Sports the last 4 minutes. I was like, "Come on!" And I was like, "Yep, happy." So not even Ben Gurion passport control could ruin my evening once the Colts had taken themselves to 6-1. So it's just the curative power of sports. But I get to start today. And what I'd like to talk about is Judea and Samaria, which is probably slightly left field given everything else that's going on. But that's where I've been today. So I was extremely fortunate to find a fixer who could get me around that part of the Middle East, which is frankly even more complicated than Gaza. Mm-hmm. And I think if we give it a little bit more of a strategic overview really quickly, Gaza, it's an enclave. There's no Israelis in there, apart from the IDF, clearly. But there's no Israeli villages or towns. There's no problems. Judea, Samaria, the West Bank has this whole legal wrangle going on around it. You'll have heard the various legal theories on both sides. Natasha Hausdorff, who I was just hanging out with about half an hour ago, has a great kind of explainer as to why that's technically legally Israel's territory. Yeah. There are other legal arguments that suggest, the UN tends to lean this way, that actually this is a whole new situation and Palestinian self-determination is more important than traditional ways of working out the borders of new states. So huge legal wrangle over where it stands. And, I'm fairly sure Shana will have an opinion as to where it stands. But the point is there are legal questions over it, which makes it really, really complicated. You've also got the fact that most of the people there, like around 70% of Arabs who live in that area, have no prior connection to Palestine whatsoever. Most of them came in as workers in the aftermath of the creation of the State of Israel and then had lots of kids. And that is genuinely about 70%. So they're Egyptians, they're Syrians, they're Lebanese. This is again, demographically far more complicated than perhaps the world's media would have you believe. And then, of course, we have the fact that Israel has built towns and villages within the West Bank. Israel will agree that some of them are, they will suggest that some of them are entirely legal. The international community has taken a different view. And then, of course, we have that hilltop settler violence, which I don't think anyone really supports apart from the hilltop settlers themselves. So deeply, deeply complicated area. And I got to see two things today. I got to see Nablus, which is the ancient kind kind of Israelite village of Shechem. So again, it's a sort of an Arab settlement built on top of an old Jewish one from hundreds and hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago. And what you've got in the middle of Nablus is 2 refugee camps. And it's really interesting because when you look down onto it, you can see the areas that are refugee camps. You've got all these new high-rise sort of buildings, most of them half finished. And then you've got these real low-rise slum areas in the middle. And that's where all the terrorism is. The IDF are operating in those places on a nightly basis. But what you've got on the hill, kind of 2 minutes drive from there, is an incredible Italian-style palace on top of a hilltop. And that is the Palestinian Authority's finance minister's house. It's an incredible juxtaposition. Honestly, when you've been looking down over the slums in central Nablus, and then on the hill just next to it is this incredible Mediterranean Italian style, like mansion is the only word for it. It just gave me a really good insight into just how corrupt the PA is, just how they are an utterly unsuitable partner for anything going forward in Gaza, which we're all interested in. And it showed in many ways how these people are playing our governments. You know, we've seen Keir Starmer shaking hands with Abu Mazen, with Mahmoud Abbas, you know, as if he's some sort of equal partner who's going to lead the Palestinians to the sunlit uplands of prosperity. And then you go there and you see what his government actually does. And there's a very good reason they've not had an election for well over 10 years. So that was fascinating. And the other thing I got to see today over in Samaria was a place called Ariel, where they're actually trying to do something a little bit differently. Ariel was founded in the late 1970s. It's a really, really new place. I think the first ground was broken around 1977 with about 40 Israelis who came onto Samaria to be the first ones there. It's like the Wild East rather than the Wild West. It's like a frontier town to start with. But they are taking their future really seriously, and they understand that the Arabs aren't likely to go anywhere anytime soon, and they want to cooperate with them. So you've got, factories, you've got outreach groups, you've got all kinds of stuff going on. And I spoke to one Palestinian guy today who essentially said that he thinks about 90% of Palestinians, if they were given the choice between killing a Jew and working with a Jew, they'd actually go with working with. Like, it's only the 5-10% of psychopaths who are the ones that just want to slaughter all the Jews, but they're the ones who have all the power and control. These people, they're not necessarily mortal enemies. I don't think that translates into, complete acceptance of the state of Israel and Israel ruling over them and all those other kind of knock-on effects. But actually, if they're given the chance to work, they might well do. So 90%, I suspect, is pushing it a bit. That's his take. I would suggest it's probably a bit lower than that. But there are seeds of hope. There are seeds of hope. There's no quick solution. There's no easy solution. It's the Middle East. Nothing's ever easy. But it's, if they can even take a tiny little cress seed, even the act of planting the seed is revolutionary. And maybe if in Ariel they are planting that tiny little cress seed, then who knows what might come of it. So finishing my opening preamble on a note of hope, which is good because I'm normally the pessimistic one, so I get to be hopeful today. Shana, over to you.
You're the pessimistic one? I feel like I am like queen pessimist over here, but thank you. That's like the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. Nobody's ever accused me of being an optimist. Okay, so I just want to address a few things when it comes to Judea and Samaria. And I like how you called it the Eastern Front, because people have to understand.
No, the Wild East. The Wild East.
The Wild East. Sorry. Sorry, I'm thinking All Quiet on the Western Front. I know you made some sort of like pop culture reference. Not that All Quiet on the Western Front has been pop culture for about 100 years, but you know how old I am, Andrew. So
You got in there before I could make that joke.
yeah, I know. You accused me of voting for like Hoover or something like that. So I have to run with that. That being said, it's not to be understated, actually, that Judea and Samaria is as the wild east or whatever compared to the concept of the West Bank is the fact that this is a disputed territory. I want to talk about this for a moment, but that it is the natural dividing line between Jordan and Israel, and when we're talking about boundaries, you have to take into account what's the word for things that have to do with like topographical, sorry, topographical elements. I know I have to say this every single week. When you're a woman and you're 54, you're lucky if you can remember your name, much less the word topographical. I don't even know if that's the right one, but like rivers, mountains, the things like
Yeah,
that.
topographical's good.
That create natural barriers and security borders, and this is important. And to go back to, I would never feign to have a better explanation ever than Natasha Hausdorff, who, by the way, was also on the Yoga of War podcast. Anyone, including Andrew twice, has been on the podcast. I wouldn't feign to like be able to explain this better than she can, but I will say that UN Resolution 242, basically, if you read it, the Judea and Samaria represents, at best, Israeli territory, and at worst, disputed territory. There's literally nothing in that says that it's Palestinian territory, okay? Oh, you see over and over again Israel's willingness to trade land for peace. Even if it's a territory and not a state, Israel is always trying to create the space for the possibility of peace. Now, that being said, there's this great falsehood that people have where they say, oh, well, the Jewish settlers in Judea and Samaria are there to spoil the prospects of a future Palestinian state. Let me tell you why that is a problem, an inherent problem. The world spends so much of its like unintellectual capital of accusing Israel of apartheid, right? So 20% of Israel is Arab Muslim, and 0%, I don't even mean like I'm rounding down. Zero, let's just say zero, forget percent, because sometimes that might be 0.9% or something like that. 0% of Palestinian territories, including Gaza before 2023, obviously when there was an occupation because of the war, there wasn't a single Jew. So the very concept that having a Jew in a territory that might go someday to a Palestinian state is the acknowledgement of the pure apartheid that happened to exist in Palestinian and Arab territories. I also want to stack on what you said about the 5 to 10% of rat. Are you talking about Judea and Samaria when you said 5 to 10% of Palestinians, or are you including Gaza that you said would rather work for an Israeli than?
No, I think we can exclude Gaza on that. That's
okay.
That's the area of Samaria that he was talking about, rather than the whole piece.
Okay, I was going to say, because that's weird. But another thing I want to stack on that, Andrew, if you want to talk about like what I've heard also in like the 90% range, is that if you ask Arab Israelis, would they prefer to be citizens of Israel or a Palestinian state, 90% of them also say they would prefer to be Israeli. Why? Because you have more rights as an Arab in Israel than you do in any Arab country. Forget about the Palestinian territories. That is a train wreck, but I'm just talking about the whole darn place. Now, I'm sorry, I just wrote some notes so I could address the things that you said. As far as settler violence is concerned, yes, I don't know anybody who supports settler violence beyond
apart from the Hilltop Youth. That's it.
But
Yeah.
I also want to say that there's a lot of whataboutism that surrounds that. Settler violence is such a tiny, tiny thing, including, remember last year when Mike Huckabee jumped on the Israel is bad, they bombed a church bandwagon. And then he's like, oh, never mind. I never actually said that when he did. I love Mike Huckabee. But it turned out that it was actually the Palestinians, and also that the fire that had consumed this area, and the videos of the settlers with the fire was them trying to put out the fire. So the misreporting never stops. Also, remember the big thing about Netanyahu or whatever, the Netanyahu government allowing for like more settler expansion. That was all in Area C, by the way, which is fully controlled by Israel. People are angry that Area C, which for all intents and purposes, if by some unicorn dream there is a two-state solution, Area C would become Israel. So people are saying, oh, they want to expand and it's this big settler colonialist, blah, blah, blah. It's Area C. And last point I want to make, just to stack on what you're saying about the slums in direct juxtaposition of the palace of the Palestinian Authority's finance minister. This is an exact mirror of Hamas, right? People think that the PA are the good guys. They are the same guys with a different color keffiyeh. Arafat's daughter is a billionaire. She's one of the wealthiest people in the world. Is it because she started some great tech company or she sold a lot of cars? No, it's because he stole all the money, just like Hamas does, and it went to her.
Boom. Boom. There's one thing I wanted to finish on, which is more an educational point. Now, I know we have an incredibly well-informed audience, but this is always a good point to reinforce. You spoke about matters topographical. There's a reason that it's not so simple for Israel just to go, cool, have it. Just, you call it West Bank, we call it Judea and Samaria, just have it. It doesn't matter. There's a reason for that. It's because you need to understand that Israel starts at the sea, and then goes up to the mountains, and then goes down to the Jordan River. For any pro-Palestine supporters watching, the Jordan is the river you're singing about, and the Mediterranean's the sea. I know you didn't know that, so just any pro-Pallies, I got you. The high ground is remarkable. That there are lookout points where you can stand on there, and you can literally stand on the high ground by Jerusalem, look west, and see all the way to the skyscrapers of Tel Aviv and the sea beyond. And at its narrowest points, if you take away the West Bank, Judea, Samaria from Israel's kind of landmass, the narrowest point, Israel is 9 miles wide. Okay, that's strategically indefensible. Indefensible. So if that area goes to another state, be it Palestine or be it back to Jordan or whatever it is, Israel's in real trouble. And, if we look at the history of Israel since 1948, it's not as if they don't have enemies that want to try and roll them up, want to try and, wipe them off the map. So having that high ground, of course, gives you the ability militarily to fire downwards. Mm-hmm. And your enemy, or, in this case, Israel, would have to assault uphill to try and defend themselves, which is not a place you want to be from a soldiering perspective. So that's why this is so totemic. It's why the Golan Heights are so important. It's why now Mount Hermon is becoming a similar kind of situation. Like, Israel is strategically very weak if they lose those areas. So that's why it's important. And frankly, after certainly the last 2 years, if not the last 80, I can see why. Yeah. So a little history of geography and strategy all rolled into one there, and maybe a bit of tactics as well.
And cool. When it comes to geography, I'm not going to show off my word again, topographical. But also, like, if anybody's ever looked at a map of the Middle East and as a whole and try to find Israel on it, this big colonialist, expansionist empire, it's this tiny state that's like smaller than New Jersey. Again, the inversions of reality never end. Okay, let's talk about the ceasefire. Do you want to start? You want me to start?
The what fire? the continue fire, the keep going fire.
Well, okay, so yeah,
The
absolutely.
Trump ceasefire, which as ever has the breaking strain of a Kit Kat.
It's okay, let's be honest. It's a hudna. It's not a ceasefire. And quite honestly, the fact that Hamas is asking for 3 to 5 years ceasefire, just enough time for Trump to leave power, possibly cede it to the isolationist Vance. Are you going to meet with Vance while you're there? Is that a weird question?
Only if I find him on Grindr.
Oh, God, okay. But even worse than Vance, of course, would be a Democrat who will probably just hand them the state. So I just think that this 3 to 5 year ceasefire, it's not even pretending to be anything but a hudna.
No. Do you want to explain what hudna is in Islamic culture? I think that might be useful for people. Given that you're the one that's trucking around your Arabic skills, I'll let you explain it.
I'm so fluent. Were you impressed? That's like my second big word in one show. A hudna is basically a fake ceasefire, pretending that you're at peace so that you can regroup, so that you can reattack.
It's a pause. It's a pause to rearm. It's a pause to rearm. It's a well-established kind of concept within the Islamic world.
Yes, but I do want to say it's not just like a ceasefire where they happen to rearm. In their mind, it's only a pause so that they could rearm. The rearmament is not like a possible auxiliary. It is the end of the hudna, is when they restart the war. And I think that people who haven't followed this conflict for very long don't understand. Israel has never started a conflict, never started a war. It's always the end of a hudna.
Yeah, and look, Hamas are in, I think, still a pretty strong position right now. We've got the ceasefire where Trump had to kind of buy off Qatar and Turkey to get them to force Hamas to release the hostages. And I thought that was really interesting because there's people like Daniel Rubenstein and me, frankly, who've been saying for upwards of 12 months that the way to get the hostages out was to pressure Qatar. But actually, Trump went a kind of third way and just bought them, which is fascinating. Now, what else they got in that deal concerns me. There'll be stuff that we don't know. How much say do they get, and how much of their money goes into Gaza for the reconstruction piece? What comes of that? Where's that money going to go? Given that Hamas are their babies anyway. So there's some real sort of later down the line repercussions, especially when we do frame it in terms of a hudna, because Qatar will see it as that as well. It's not just Hamas. It's, Qatar and Turkey will envisage these things too. Are you typing again? You're typing.
Sorry.
That's what that clicking is.
You know why? Because if I don't, then I will interrupt you. You know that I'm an interrupter. So I've taken, these fingernails are like, they make manicurists want to cry. They're like, oh, you have the best nails, but they're extra typey. The problem is that when I write on a notepad, I look like I'm not paying attention to you. So which do you prefer?
I just assumed you weren't paying attention anyway. So
I hang on your every word. I was just reading a note.
So yeah, Qatar, the way this ceasefire came about surprised everyone. Qatar bought off, Turkey bought off. And then you hit that huge what next? Because actually, from Qatar's point of view, they have just won a slam dunk. They have just absolutely bombed it out of the park. They've maintained their position as this incredible mediator who've just mediated like champions and not just told their proxy what to do, which is what it actually is. They've now won huge concessions from the Americans, including a defense pact and the ability to train their pilots in mainland US. They've almost certainly won themselves a huge role in the reconstruction of Gaza, and they've divested themselves of a strategic asset that had become toxic, namely the hostages. So it's just win for Qatar right now, and it's also a win for Hamas because there's nothing in that ceasefire deal that gets rid of them, and that's the really worrying thing. And what's the alternative? I was at a dinner just before this, and Yakov Amador, the general, was speaking, former national security advisor. He was like, "We'll just kill them all." It's like, okay, dude, cool. Let me know how that goes, because it's not going to happen, because Hamas is embedded. They can just drop their weapons right away. They still own the entire administrative structures of Gaza. Like, they ain't going nowhere, and you can't kill them out of it. So I'm quite concerned about this next phase. And if Israel keeps bombing, I just don't see what they think they're achieving, apart from just killing goons. And as I've said many times, killing goons is fun, but strategically not particularly useful.
Okay, I disagree with that, and I have a slightly different take on buying Qatar. There's no doubt that Qatar got a lot out of this transaction, but the way that I see it, it was the Israeli attack on the quote unquote peacemakers that was the inflection point that brought Qatar to the table. Now, I watched
No, it
last
wasn't.
two. Oh, hold on. Let me say my piece, and then you can rip me to shreds, because I know that I see this very, very different than you do, Andrew. And I have I've been just watching with utter fascination how the dance that Trump and Bibi have been dancing, where no one has been able to figure out the actual steps that they're doing. If I could use a dance analogy, I can't dance, so it was probably a crappy analogy. However, the way that I see it, I believe that Trump 100% knew that Israel was going in to attack. I believe that this was all the plan all along, because Trump tells Qatar, get these negotiators out of the room. You could save their life. They left just a couple minutes before the strike to pray, right? And so they walk out. Israel does the strike. But now Doha is like, holy crap. Okay, we're not immune. We're harboring terrorists. We are a legitimate, no matter what squawking they make on the world stage, they are legitimate military targets and always have been. And now Israel means business. People are saying that this was some big, like, tactical mistake or failure. Why did the whole game change that day? Why did Qatar finally at that point say, okay, it's time to say goodbye to our good friends at Hamas and get in line with America? Now, do I have problems with the deals that Qatar is making with America? 100,000,000%, especially being able to train in Idaho on American ground. Like, I cannot. I'll give you the what the hell on that one when it comes to Trump. But listen, the fourth apology, so to speak, from Netanyahu was performative, and it wasn't an apology. He expressed regret. And in diplomatic terms, it is not the same thing. I think the whole entire thing was a setup, because Qatar decided that it was time to, whatever. You could say what you want, get bought off, get what they want from America. It doesn't matter what it was. They decided the pressure had finally mounted to the point where it was time to disassociate from Hamas. And this gave them the plausible deniability to say, okay, because otherwise they would have dug in their heels instead of saying, guys, it's time to what would you say, give up the goat? Is that a thing?
Ghost.
Ghost? Why'd you
Yeah.
give up
Because you're stopping clinging on to life, so you just give up and just drift away.
Oh, okay. Well, give up the ghost then. That's
No, let's
why
give up the goats. I like give up the goat
ghost.
better.
Yeah, goats are fun.
Let's pretend it's Sinwar. Give up your goat, Sinwar.
But you know what? Baby goats are so damn cute. Hey, speaking of baby goats, did you see? This has nothing to do with baby goats, but it has to do with the fact that like a goat is considered to be like a bad, like sort of like the lowest of the mammals or whatever. But a baby goat is like the cutest. They hop and they dance. But did you see the video that I posted? You might have seen it anyway recently of the Palestinian kid with the flag, the little 3-year-old who went up to the IDF. It's insane. So I posted it on Substack, but I also post it probably everywhere. But so this is like, I don't know if you've seen this with your own 2 eyes because you've been in Gaza at times. So there's a guy filming, okay? In front of him is a father who is yelling to his 3-year-old, I guess he's 3. I'm pretty good at guessing children's age. His 3-year-old boy who's carrying like a Palestinian flag like this. He waddles in and he's saying, throw a rock at the IDF. The IDF soldiers are standing there. Throw a rock, let them shoot you. He's saying this to his children. His child, and somebody is filming it because this is how they do provocations. The little guy comes up, he's got the flag, he puts out his hand. The IDF guy gives him what I think is a high five. Maybe it's a candy, but I didn't see him like eat it. So I think it was like a high five. And the father is yelling, let him shoot you, get a rock and throw it. Okay, so this little kid like toddles off to the side, gets a rock. He can't even throw a rock. Okay, so he goes like this, and it like lands right in front of him. He's not even aiming at the soldier. He's just like sort of like throwing rocks randomly, and the soldiers are just standing there. But my point is, this is big goat. It's hashtag cute, not cute. Hashtag funny, not funny when you watch it, because this is when we talk about the innocent Gazans. This is a Hamas kid in training, but watching him at the same time as it melts your heart, it's so heartbreaking and enraging. You got to watch it. It's good.
That was one of the most remarkable segues that I've ever come across.
Okay, thanks. So
it's pure, just testimony to the unique mind of the Meyerson. Remarkable stuff. From baby goats to Hamas's sacrifice of their own children. My goodness. I got nothing.
Okay.
Where do I go from there? I mean, I was going to rebut your nonsense about 4D chess with Gaza, but I'm like, cool. That's I think we've reached a high watermark at this point. I don't know where we can go from there.
You know what they need? They need to make like goats that stay small, like dogs that stay small. Like to have like
pygmy goats. Pygmy goats are an actual thing already.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad they have it because I just said they need it. So, way to go.
I'm getting you for Christmas. Hanukkah.
Yeah, I'm waiting for it. Oh, I wanted to say, actually, it's funny you should say that because remember, for your birthday, I got you those champagne flutes with the l'chaim and the cheers thing on it. Yesterday or whatever, a couple days ago, I was watching you with Jake, and he is very good with the product placement. Like every few minutes, he's like, show the Brink mug. I'm not convinced he was drinking out of that mug. The picture's out. He's like, drink from the mug. So I think you got to start bringing the champagne flutes into the picture here.
Okay, noted. Maybe we'll get some merch. Start selling T-shirts. Right, I've been up since 4 a.m.
Oh my God, we didn't even get into like 90% of the points I wanted to make about this deal. We didn't even talk about the deal. Oh, come on. Cool. What's 4 a.m. versus 4:30 a.m., Andrew Fox? What time do you have to be up?
Like 8.
Oh my God. Are you kidding me? Wait, it's not 4 a.m. It's 10:35 p.m.
In Israel, yeah, and I've been up since 4 a.m.
Oh, I thought you were saying that it's 4 a.m. And for a moment, I actually...
No, I've been up since 4 a.m.
Oh, come on. Running around the West Bank all day. Goes to bed at 10:30.
Me, I'm very old.
Oh, gee. I'm older. Okay. Do we have to end this? Okay. I do at some point, maybe even later this week or something, want to talk about like before the ceasefire like totally does whatever it's going to do. I'd love to talk about what we think it's going to do because it's always nice to get this stuff down on film before it happens to living testament to how brilliant we are.
How brilliant your strategic forecasting is.
Hey, let me tell you, 2 weeks before Donald Trump changed the Department of Defense to the Department of War, I wrote
You
an
called for it.
article. I
You
did.
did.
I
You
wrote an
did.
article on Substack called The End of the IDF, and that was exactly what it was about, that we have to get rid of the defense. By the way, the morning after I wrote my article about how we need, not that I'm the first person to say it, but the death penalty, and we need it instituted fast for terrorists, the next morning, the Knesset brings it up. And there was one other, but you're pressing buttons, so you don't even want to hear it. But I have to say, my Substack has been relatively prescient for a yoga instructor in Los Angeles.
Indeed it has. Indeed it has. And, the morning after you wrote that article about the Department of War, you got some drunk guy calling you up. He's like, "It's Pete here. Just want warriors. You can do a talk to generals, copy your article." So, entirely responsible for the arch leg, non-airborne qualified Lance Corporal weasel dickhead who runs the American Department of War. So good stuff. Right.
I do take 100% credit for that, Andrew Fox. And when I'm running the Department of War, I'm going to hire you.
Oh, that day is going to be awesome. I look forward to that day. That is going to be epic.
Yeah. Let me just say one more time before we leave. Guys, please don't take off your pins. There's still 16 hostages. Even if they're murdered, they need to come home. Don't make a big show online about taking this stuff off. It's gotta stay. It's gotta hold, and we gotta get every single hostage home. That's what
big part floating up the screen there. Well, please do like and subscribe. Or there's other stuff. If you're on audio, you can star it and stuff, or you could just go out to your back garden and let off some fireworks. If you enjoyed it that much. All of these things are options, but out of all of them, if you could like or subscribe, that would be cool. The fireworks are just really nice to have.
Yeah, we also love we do keep our eye on the comments, and it really helps. Also, if you share, we really want to get the word out on the show.
Cool. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. It's been emotional. I'm exhausted. I've had almost no sleep, and I'm going to go and pass out now. But given that I'm the one in Israel, I'm going to go with the L'chaim.
Then I'm going to go with the cheers from Los Angeles. It's always great to see you. Please kiss the ground for me, Andrew. I wish I were there.
Will do. Take care, guys. See you soon.
Bye.